Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon. What time it is? Actually, a good way for me to figure out whether it's good morning, good evening, or good afternoon is to literally ask you to put it on the chat. Uh, thanks again. We are going to keep this tight. My name is Laks Narayan. I'm the CEO and a co-founder here at Streamer Live, and delighted to demo it to you today. Actually, I'm demoing stuff that we are literally polishing up and putting. So heads up, you're going to see a lot of things which are not necessarily fully in production, but it will give you a flavor of things to come. And what I'm going to do over here is actually show you what we're doing in terms of connecting Streamer Live to this. So as you can see, I'm on my browser. I've got an open PowerPoint deck right now. And just to ensure I don't get confused, I've called this ONL Streamer Live Intro Production Server. The ONL over here on the top left is to remind me that this is an online file that I'm using on PowerPoint online, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'll tell you how this happens and all in a bit, but right now what I'm going to do is connect this PowerPoint deck to this Teams meeting. I beg your pardon. So let's connect it right away. Here we are. My Streamlab account is already connected to my Microsoft Teams. So I'm going to select this meeting which we have, Streamlab demo on Teams, and simply click on Add Session and say Start Reading Responses. Right. This is one of our favorite features. It's called Magic Maps. And what it's looking for is really to plot people as they type answers in the chat. So those of you in the Teams meeting, can you please just type in the chat as to where you're joining from? A heads up, we're polishing some things on Magic Map, so it might put your dots a little away from where you actually are, but you get an idea of how it works. So can you just type in the chat as to where you're joining from, please? And as you type those responses, little dots are going to pop up on my screen to acknowledge people over here. So, yep, we got some people in Shillong, we got some people in Reading. And as I mentioned, there's something we are polishing up right now in the maps, and therefore you're going to see two dots for each person. That will not happen in the production version. But as you can see, it allows me to fly around over here and say, oh, fantastic, we got Tina here in New York City, where it's nice and cool, 54 Fahrenheit, and it's 11 in the morning over here. I can acknowledge Peter in Reading in the UK, where it's a little warmer. It's close to 60 Fahrenheit. Of course, you don't do Fahrenheit in the UK, you do centigrade. And I could do all of those things. But the one thing I want us to just stop for a second and realize is that I'm showing you a PowerPoint slide. This PowerPoint slide is being written by you in real time based on what you're typing in the Teams chat. Right? We could have done this with Zoom as well. We could have done it with Google Meet. We can do it with YouTube. But the big thing is a PowerPoint slide for the first time in its 38-year history is literally being authored by the audience typing in the chat. And that we think is very, very powerful and can change the favor of a conversation. Let's kick the pace up. I want to show you a lot more interactions. I want to play around with a lot of things over here. And thank you for helping me test this. So again, we are on PowerPoint Online for those of you who just joined us, and just let us know where you're joining from by just typing in the Teams chat as to where you're joining this session from, right? I promised to keep the entire session to under 30 minutes. So in the next 25 minutes, I'm going to try and show you as much as I can about Streamer Live. But again, if you just joined us, type where you're joining from. And fun fact, you can do a lot of things with this. You can, for example, change the map style to look like a globe. You can literally fly around the world, have fun with that. So there's a lot of different things you can do in terms of visualizing the chat. Let's move on. I would love to get a sense of your familiarity levels with Stream Alive. So I'm just going to ask you, let me reset this over here. I was just running it a little while back. So if you've never seen Stream Alive in action, please type the number 1 in the chat, in the Teams chat. If you have seen it as an audience member, but never as a presenter, just type the number 2, and so on and so forth. If 2 of these apply to you, if it's 4 and 5, oh gosh, you folks are way ahead of me. Just type 4, 5 or 4 and 5. But Okay, so a lot of you have used Streamer Live on the web application. Let me see who that is. Peter, Donkin. Hey, Neela. Good to have you here. Different folks have used it on the web application. There are some of you who've never seen it as a presenter. So Excel and Sunday Makama have never seen it as a presenter. I'm delighted to show it to you as a presenter for the first time. Never seen it in action. Adam, welcome. Hopefully, you love what you see enough for you to try it out. And some of you have used the Zoom application. Thank you. And our vision really is to get into everywhere that people meet and present. So the Zoom application was the first external app besides our web app. And now we're going to be launching a PowerPoint app, which is what I'm demoing to you today. Beta testing the PowerPoint add-in, Duncan, of course, yes. And I hope you're testing it well. Thank you for all the feedback. So uh, again, the most powerful thing over here is that you are typing in the chat, in the Teams chat today. If you had joined us on a Tuesday, you would have been typing on a Zoom chat, and it could be really in any of the platforms that we support. If you type in the chat, what you're typing in the chat is authoring my PowerPoint slide in real time. And for the first time, a PowerPoint slide is listening as opposed to talking. And I can easily switch to a talking slide. I can talk to you about how our philosophy, like it says on my t-shirt. And I just realized I have my camera off all this time. Okay. But okay, so that's what I look like, folks. And this is my t-shirt which says unmute the audience. Oh gosh, there's something I forget each time. Last time it was I forgot to hit the record button. This time I hit the record button, but I forgot to show you what I look like. So all right, so I can move easily from a listening slide, which is the first two slides I showed you, to a talking slide. I can tell you about how our philosophy is to unmute the audience and make presentations conversations. I can tell you that the reason this is important is because it's 38 years since PowerPoint was launched, and here we are still making one-way monologues, slide after slide after slide, and we want to change that, right? So, a quick question. I've been making some assumptions over here, but I don't want to assume. So, I would love to know uh, which of these do you use? I mean, you're talking a lot about PowerPoint. If you use only PowerPoint, type the number one. If you use PowerPoint and Gamma and Keynote like I do, just type 1, comma 2, comma 4. You get the idea. So, I would love to know what applications everybody is using, because accordingly, I might show you some different things over here, right? So, a few of you using Gamma. Adam uses Gamma, Tina uses Gamma. And Adam, if you have time, and I stick to my promise of finishing this in less than 30 minutes, we will try and show you what we're going to launch very soon with Gamma. We have Excel using Gamma as well. Gosh, Gamma is getting really popular. A lot of Google Slides, but guess who's leading by far? That's PowerPoint, right? So PowerPoint also has a maximum flexibility for web embeds and a whole bunch of things. So that's why we built an app for PowerPoint. And building this app is I'll show you how it works in a little bit. It's pretty simple in terms of how Stream Alive works inside of PowerPoint, right? Um, just to continue, so we have a lot of these AI apps helping us with creating slides, but our belief is that they don't solve every problem that we have with presentations. And rather than put words in your mouth, I would love to get your opinion on this. So if I were to ask you, in a word, most presentations are, unfortunately, I would just love one word for you to complete the sentence, please. I have my own opinions, and I'm going to share them with you. Very ugly, yes. And to some extent, I would argue that the AI applications and Copilot and all of them help with the ugly part because they improve the layout, the pagination, the imagery. Unnecessary. Oh gosh. Bullet points, one-sided, monologues, ugly, unnecessary. All of these are very, very valid points, right? And our core belief is that it's tedious, and the reason it's tedious and ugly and one-sided is because most presentations are one-way monologues. The presenters usually go talk, 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 slide, 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 slide. And that's what we're changing. And as you've been seeing a few times through the course of this presentation today, we use AI to turn passive chat on Teams today, could be some other platform tomorrow, into real-time interactions. That way, a presenter like me can literally have a conversation at scale with an entire audience, like I've been doing all this time, right? I've been asking you where you joined from. I didn't just ask you and ignore your answers. I actually visualized it. We talked about the time and weather. I had polls, and everything was running inside of a PowerPoint slide. Uh, So some of you know the narrative as to why we started Stream Alive, but very, very quickly, once again, for those of you who joined late, I'm Laks Narayan. Now that my video is actually on, I'm a co-founder and CEO here at Stream Alive. And a few years ago, for various reasons, including a personal family emergency, took some time off, used some that time to write this book, which was in my head for a very long time. It's called Name, Place, Animal Thing. Looks like a children's coloring book. It's not. And the reason I bring up the book is because I didn't know anything about writing a book. Some of you might read it at some point and say, I still don't. That again is besides the point. I attended 6 online courses to learn how to write, edit, and market a book. And these were delivered over 56 live sessions, class sizes from 11 to 1,200 people. And one of the three things that you see on the right hand side of my slide would happen. In the first instance, the presenter would keep going on and on and on. We just keep talking. People would wait for the recording and then watch it at 1.5 or 2 times the speed because, hey, there's no difference between the live and the recorded experience. Or the second is where the presenter would ask something like, where are you joining from? 96 people would enthusiastically type an answer. He or she would acknowledge 3 of the people and then say, "Oh, we got Peter from Reading, we got Tina from Jersey, we got Duncan from Shillong," and then ignore the remaining 93 people who had so enthusiastically put an answer out there. You don't do that usually. You don't ask people a question and ignore their answer, but we do that in a one-to-many scenario. And the third case is where they would pull out a phone, ask people to pull out their phone, scan a QR code, and then send them off to their phones. And then good luck with trying to get them off TikTok or whatever else they're seeing in the news on their phone. So why would you self-sabotage your own session by sending someone to their phones? And that's why in all those cases the chat was on fire. So for those of you who are new to Stream Alive, the core idea is simply that: can we, let me actually pull it up over here. Can we stop one-way presentations by unmuting the audience? And how do you unmute an audience of 43 people? By making the chat stream alive, because all those logos you see in the bottom, Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, YouTube, a whole bunch of things, LinkedIn Live for that matter, everything has chat. So can we make the chat stream alive and give the audience a collective voice? And that's really what we do at Stream Alive, right? So again, I told you folks, if you can just ask, I forgot to tell you rather, if you have any questions, put them in the chat anytime. Streamlive's AI will automatically pull the questions from the chat and pull them up for me. So I've got a couple of questions on, can you run the slide in full screen presentation mode? Yes, you can. We're sorting out a few teething issues with running it in presentation mode, but hey, part of this is really building in public, sharing in public. So you know what, I'm going to try and see what happens when you go in presentation mode. So if you go into full mode, it just takes a second or two to load the slide up because it's loading an add-in over there. And it's going to refresh the entire slide and it should pull it up. But sometimes it goes to a different interaction over here like it just did. And that's the reason we don't fully run it in full mode. So it does work in full screen mode, but it's not maintaining the counter properly. So this is just something we need to sort out before we launch it into production next week. It's not available yet in the Microsoft App Store, Tina, and I'm glad you asked. So what's going to happen is once it's launched, when you go to the Microsoft App Store, which I don't think this is the App Store, uh, they just launched a new one, by the way. They changed the URL. So yeah, this is the original Microsoft App Store. So if you go here and search for Stream Alive, you should be able to find the application in roughly a week from now. But right now, what I'm using, just since you asked the question, is a non-public version of it. And that's why it says demo. That's why it says private. And some of you who are familiar with Stream Alive might have applied for our private beta program. And thank you in that case for helping us test this and polish out the last few bugs that we have. But right now it's a limited release app, and very soon this won't be private anymore. Anyone can search for it and install it. Yes. So as I tick off these answer these questions, I'm also going to tick them as answered, because what that does is makes my life easier. So each time I come back to the slide, I can just look for unanswered questions. And again, please type your questions like a human would in the chat. Our AI will automatically recognize it as a question, even if it does not have a question mark and you've forgotten your grammar and punctuation. We're able to identify a question with almost pretty good certainty over here, right? Okay, so let's go back here. I put these magenta slides just so it kind of helps me understand which ones of these have interactions and to cue it you. I think it's a bad choice of color because I just realized that PowerPoint circles every active slide with a magenta as well. So I got a magenta and magenta, which is slightly difficult to discern, but hey, you live and learn. We also have a quiz feature which works beautifully in our web application. There are a few challenges with bringing it into PowerPoint, but we are close to doing that as well. So in effect, if I asked you a question like this, hey, what does Stream Alive not support? You folks could answer one or two or three or four over here. And as you give your answers, I can say that three people have answered the question so far. Two of you think it is option number four. And one of you thinks it is option number two, that we don't support in-person and hybrid. So fun fact, we do support in-person and hybrid sessions as well. Those are the only cases where we encourage people to actually scan a QR code because our belief is one device at a time. If you're in person in a room, yeah, sure, use your phone. But if you're in front of Teams or Zoom, then don't use your phone, right? So in those cases, yes, you could scan a QR code. You'd be in a chat that looks like, Messenger or WhatsApp. Pick your poison, and you just answer in the chat, and it populates the answers over here. So you could have some people on Zoom, and some people in person, or some people in Teams, and some people in person. So hybrid works as well. So over here, again, this is an early cut of the quiz feature. We'll add a lot more bells and whistles and sounds and animations to it. Right now, what it does is allows me to show the correct answer, and then I can say, hey, this is the right answer, and it supports all of these platforms, and then I can move on kind of to the next slide, right? We have leaderboards as well, not yet supported in the PowerPoint embed. Those will also be coming down the line where I could pull up a leaderboard, look at. As you can see, the scores aren't perfectly right over here, but it's down the line. It'll show you what each person's score is, and it'll maintain a cumulative count on that. And then I could move on to a next question, why is Stream Alive unique? And encourage you to type one, two, three, or four. Let's just try one more quiz over here before we switch tracks. It is the only native chat powered solution. Absolutely. It works inside PowerPoint, which is also very, very unique to Stream Alive. And a couple of you have mentioned all of the above. And yes, we also have AI for creation, collation, and for visualization. The right answer is indeed all of the above. And if the leaderboard is working as it's supposed to, I could have shown you the collective scores and everything, right? Um, so again, lots of different questions we can run. We won't run the rest of the quizzes just in the interest of time because I do want to cover more ground, because I do want to show you other parts of Stream Alive in terms of how you plan for engagement, how increase engagement is a simple part. Ask people questions, don't ignore their answers, visualize them, acknowledge them, and engagement takes care of itself. I want to show you what analytics come out as well. So for that, I need your help. I'm going to try and run an interaction I just added a little while before this presentation here today. So I'd love for you to share a childhood hobby or a current hobby. It could be something that you used to play in your childhood or do in your childhood, or something that is current. Playing the piano. Oh, wow. All right. It's a nice one. Photography. I'm going to wait for a couple more. Hiking, acting, running. Where are my friends with the weird hobbies? Sports, traveling. All right. I'm going with playing piano or reading science fiction. You know what? That is the first one, playing piano. So maybe I'll go with playing piano. All right. So I'm going to pretend that I am. I think that was Neela who said building and flying kites. Oh, I'm sorry, Neela. Actually, building and flying kites might trump playing piano if you don't mind, because I've never done that before. I have done piano. So this is a personal bias. I mean, I don't play the piano, but I've simulated a live session on playing the piano. So let's look at the answers we have here. Building and flying kites. All right, all right. Or I could do something different. Let's do this. I'm going to go here and spin this wheel of everybody who, oops, did it run? Let's run it again. Reset. All right, the wheel seems to have a mind of its own. And I think the universe is telling me I need to do what Neela Saldana just said. So sorry to the person who's building and flying kites. We're going to go with what Neela just said, which is the piano. I'm going to switch tracks over here, go into the Streamalive web application. So we started life as a web application, and then we said, let's put this into different containers. So the first container we put this into is Zoom, where I was just showing this to someone a little while back, but Zoom has 3,062 applications in their marketplace. And Streamalive is actually the number one featured AI application, the number one featured employee engagement application, and the number one featured app for education, right? So we built the Zoom app, gave us a lot of confidence in terms of, hey, we need to build more of these. And that's the next one that we're building is the PowerPoint app that I've been showing you so far. But all of these are vessels to contain our core web application. So that is always going to be the most powerful manifestation of Streamalive. So I'm just going to, and you can always do everything I'm doing from the web application. So I'm going to go here and pretend I'm doing a live session on playing the piano. And we're going to have some fun here. We're going to say it's for people who have never played music. All right. So we're going to teach playing the piano to people who have never played music before, and we want to come up with interesting questions we can ask them to make this session engaging. So Streamalive is our AI is coming up with recommended questions like which city or country would you love to visit to experience its music culture? What emotion comes to mind when you're thinking of playing the piano, right? In a sentence or two, what do you associate with the sound of a piano? I'm just going to select all of these in the interest of time, add them here, change the theme to whatever I want. And at this point, I could present this on a session of my choice. Right now, it's presenting it on Teams because I'm already active on Teams. Or I could say, you know what, let me go back to the presentation we just created. I could say instead, I want to run a preview, right? So if I wanted to run a preview of this entire presentation, it's going to simulate what the session will look like in a live session. And oops, I think I'm sharing multiple screens here. Give me a second. I'm just going to stop screen share so I can open my browser and make it behave. There we are. I think I might have something weird in my browser, but maybe some of you folks can help me with that. Let's just pull that up again. And here we are on the browser. And for some reason, my entire browser seems to have got a mind of its own. All right. For some reason, my browser seems to have taken a mind of its own. What I'm going to do instead is Alt Tab over here to go to my PowerPoint, because the other thing I wanted to show you folks is that everything I showed you so far that runs with PowerPoint Online can also happen on PowerPoint desktop as well, right? There are a few nuances that apply to the different ones, so we're trying to figure those out and make them a little more harmonized in terms of the experience. Microsoft does not make it easy to ensure there's a consistent experience between PowerPoint desktop and online. But the end vision is something like this, where you have a presentation like this one that I'm running right now, and you can insert all of your interactions inside of that presentation, right? So just like I showed you with PowerPoint Online, all of these interactions can be embedded inside over here. And I just realized I did not show you exactly how the embed works, so I'm going to show you that as well right now. All you need to do is create a new slide. And here we are. And I could say, I just say I want to add a Streamalive add-in. Like I said, this is not publicly available right now. It's in a experimental stage right now, and it will be publicly available very soon. And once I add it, I can pull in one of my existing presentations from the web application. So like I could pull those things that I created for playing the piano. So for example, these interactions, which for some reason didn't show up in my browser, if I were to pull them into my PowerPoint slide here right now, I have an interactive slide that asks people, hey, in a sentence or two, what emotions or imagery do you associate with the sound of the piano, right? And at this point, I could, connect this to any platform that I want, or I could simply preview it to get a flavor of what kind of responses I might get. So our AI also generates, responses to give you a sense of how beautiful your session would be, with people giving hopefully these thoughtful answers about how their piano feels like a bridge between the heart and the universe, expressing what words cannot. Gosh, that's poetic. And I can take all of these responses. I can actually have fun with it. I can say, let's visualize all your responses in real time into an image. And if I did that, it's going to take everybody's responses so far. I have no clue what's going to come up over here. We've never done this before for pianos and poetic imagery and emotions that they invoke. But hey, there's only one way to find out. That's not bad. All right, so it's created an image based on people's responses and the answers that we got. If I didn't want an image and I just wanted a summary of what everybody did, it's okay. Let's wait for the responses to come in again. Let's say I got these responses over here, and I say, hey, I want to get a summary of what everybody has said so far, because there are so many different responses that everyone's giving, and it's virtually impossible for me to read all of these and do justice to them. So I could click on summary here. And what Stream Alive is going to do inside the PowerPoint slide is really read that slide and give me a summary of what everybody said. So people talked about imagery, atmospheric power. There's, it tells me if I have enough responses, it tells me there's a popular opinion, alternative voices. But we're moving the conversation from the very, very almost childlike, hey, raise your hands, put your hands down, or do you like A, B, or C, to a more nuanced, what is your open-ended, free-form opinion about this? And let me summarize what 63 people have said in real time in the room, which has never been possible before, right? And again, the most important thing is all of this can happen inside of PowerPoint. I want to show you one other thing here. Since you're talking about the AI, over here, I picked up an interaction from an existing presentation that I had, but I could also do something else, which is I could simply say, you know, read the slides from the beginning, or maybe just read my last 6 slides, and give me a suggestion on what I can be doing over here, right? So it's reading all of my slides. It realizes that I had a slide, for example, on AI automating slide creation, about all of these things. And it's recommending that I ask people on, hey, share your thoughts on AI transforming slide creation, right? And or one word to describe AI automating slides. And I say, okay, that's a nice question to ask. And if I wanted to add it, I would just add this to my PowerPoint. And I've actually got a slide that talks about one word to describe AI automating slides. I could run this live. I could preview it. And if I were to preview it again, it would give me simulated answers for a question like this, where the answers are being typed in the Teams chat or the Zoom chat and populating into my slide right now, right? So again, for the first time ever, the audience can author a presenter slide. And that is the big thing about what we're doing at Stream Alive. If you haven't used Stream Alive before, please go to streamalive.com, sign up for a free account, play around with it. And if you already use Stream Alive, please keep an eye out for an email update sometime around this time next week, when we have the add-in that I've been showing you in full production ready. It'll still be in a public beta, but you can use it from the Microsoft App Store, right? Thank you very much for joining us. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesday on Zoom, Thursday on Teams. We literally build in public, experiment in public, try things. Sometimes things work, sometimes things break. But it's our endeavor to show you what else is cooking in Stream Alive, what's coming, and to make you part of that process. Thank you very much for joining us today.